All right. So the problems from yesterday, I want to go ahead and put those answers up first, and then we're just gonna. I'm not gonna go real far today. I just want to add in just a little bit onto this, and then probably the next day we're gonna start into a bigger part of this unit. But um, basically, we're gonna build on the triangles, finding missing angles. We're gonna combine some of the prior knowledge and like linear pair and vertical angles, and kind of combine it into the triangles. But the ones from yesterday, you had the 3, 4, 5 triangle that had a right angle, so it was a right scalene. Okay, because none of the sides were the same, 3, 4, 5, and so it's scalene, and then it had a right angle, so it's right. Number 2 was a obtuse, because it had an obtuse angle, and then 2 of the sides were the same, so it's an obtuse isosceles, because you had 2 sides that were 8 in length. Number 3 ended up being a acute. All the angles are smaller than 90, and it was scalene, because none of the sides were the same. Number 4 was an equilateral. Now, equilateral, you could say acute equilateral, that's fine, but every equilateral is going to be acute, okay? The only way you can have 3 angles be the same for 3 sides to be the same is it's got to be 60, 60, 60. So there's no such thing as an obtuse equilateral. So if you have acute equilateral, that's fine, but you can also just say equilateral and it is assume that it is acute, okay? Finding the missing angle. So on number 5, you had the angle that was 110, the other one was 40. You need to add those together, get 150, and subtract that from 180, and you get 30. And then number 6 was, I told you, I'm going to go ahead and draw that one again because I said I had given you 2 angles. Well, the 2 angles were 90, don't forget that means 90, the little box, 50, so that's 140 added together, and subtract that from 180, that makes that angle 40, okay? So that was the ones from yesterday. What we're going to build a little bit on today is what happens when you've got these other things that we've talked about, like vertical angles and linear pair, and you combine that into triangle. And another thing is what happens when you've got multiple variables going on in a triangle, how to set up a problem like that. Let's look at a triangle. Let's say I've got a triangle, and this is gonna be hard because, like I said, I my drawings are never really good, and then you got to kind of set this up correctly so that it looks right. That's not always going to happen when I'm free drawing here, but I just want to mainly get over the process that I'm using. So let's say we'll make this, I'm going to say this is a 20-degree angle. We'll make this one 130. Okay. Now, the difference on this is, okay, so we know 3 angles add up to 180. And we've actually got 2 angles missing in the triangle. Okay, and if you've got 2 angles missing and no other information, you can't solve it. You can say what the 2 together add up to. Like if you didn't have this at all, you could say these 2 angles have to be added up together to 50. And so, because I subtracted that from 180, that both angles together equal 50, but I don't know if one of them's 30 and one's 20, or they're both 25. I have no idea how that 50 breaks up. And so you have to have one other thing given to you to solve exactly what it is. And in this case, they're going to put maybe something like a vertical angle up here. That's a vertical angle with this one. It's like if you look at this and take the triangle out of it, this is a vertical angle from our prior chapter. So if that's 20, then this is 20. And now I can say, okay, now this is 21, 30, that means this one's 30. Okay, and that way they all equal 180 inside that triangle. So that's something you got to be prepared for, is that they could have this be like set up like a vertical. Another thing that they could do, and I'll stick with this one since it comes out and it looks about right. Okay. Let's say they only gave me that, so we don't have enough, even though we already know what this one is. But let's say it's a new triangle, we're trying to solve it, we need something given to us. So let's say this one is 50. This angle out here. And so at that point then, I can say, hey, you know what? This is a straight line. And our linear pair, because these two, this angle and this angle are adjacent to each other, and they form a straight line, then I can take 50 away from 180, and I get that this angle is 130. Okay, now I know these two angles. I can now find this angle by subtracting these two from 180. So they're going to combine things with prior knowledge and then build off of that to find your missing angles. And it's like puzzle pieces. You've got to work your way around. Maybe there's more than one way to solve one. You know, doesn't really matter which order you go in, unless it's stuck where you have to do this to then do this. Then you can go that route. But that's one thing they're going to do. Another thing that the problems will do from now is have more than one variable. So let's take, I'm going to take this, we'll make that a 90, and let's say this is, will that come up? Well, like I said, some of these may not look right, but this is how you'd set up a problem like this, okay? So this is probably not going to look exactly right when we're done as far as angle-wise, but this is how you could set up any of these problems to solve. But basically is, okay, now we have two what you would call unknowns, and you say, well, I can't solve it. This one we know is 90, but you say, well, then I don't have enough. Well, in this case, you actually do, because they use the same variable. Now, if they used an x and a y, then no, we don't have enough, because I can't combine an x and a y, and so I have no way of solving it yet. But when they have the same variable, then there is a way to solve this. And that means you're going to take all your angles. So one of them is 90, that you know, that's a number. And you're going to add in the 2x1, okay? That's this one. And you're going to add in this one, the x. And all angles need to add up to what in a triangle? To 180. Okay? So because this is not an x and a y, we can combine these. So that helps me because now I've combined them. 2x plus x is 3x. And I can solve for x, because if it had been x and y, I couldn't have solved for it. One's an x, one's a y. I can't combine them. I have two unknowns. Now I just have one unknown. I was able to combine these. And so now I just need to solve for this one unknown. So I need to isolate it, which means I can move this 90. Okay, and then I can divide by 3. And x is 30. Which means that this angle is 30 because it's x. Okay, so it's the same as x. And this angle is 2 times 30, 2x. So 2 times that 30 would make this 60. It's close to looking like it should. This should be a little bit wider, but this would be a 60-degree angle. Now, depending on if they want you to solve for the angles or x, depending on when you're done. If they say on a problem like this to solve for x, then we don't even need this 60 and 30. We've solved for x here. Now, if they ask for, like, what is this angle, then you got to plug this in and say 2 times 30. It's a 60-degree angle, okay? So it's just kind of getting used to that, all right? So any of these problems, if they have the same variable, you can add them all together to equal 180, and that's how you're going to set these up. Then just start solving for the x at that point. Combine your like terms and solve for x. Now, I know this is a short video, but I think the problems will take you a little bit, so I want to give you some time to do that, and then we'll check them tomorrow. But let me put some problems up here. These I kind of look, so they should look about right. Hopefully. There's always a question at the end, so yeah, this one's not going to look exactly right there. So this triangle is 50, and you need to find this angle and this angle, okay? And this is 80 up here, so that's going to help you. Number 2 is, okay, this angle out here is 90, and this one's 40. Okay, so you need to find this angle and this angle of the triangle. Number 3, go over here. This is going to be 130. This is x, and this is x plus 10. Okay. Remember to add them all up to equal 180. And then this one is let's see. Yeah, 3x, 2x, and x. So you're going to add them all up. Remember, set equal 180. So there's your problem. So on this one, I just want you to solve for x, and this one just solve for x for now. Okay, just solve for x, and when you solve for x, then you're done. You don't have to plug them back in yet. Okay.